Welcome everybody to Catfish Weekly, presented by Whiskerware Apparel, along with Chuck Davison and Chris Wallace. I'm Lyle Stokes, and welcome to the show. We got a lot of stuff to go over tonight. Chris has got some stuff about electronics. Chuck has got a bunch of stuff he wants to talk about, and I'm going to visit about some new regulations and things, good or bad, bow fishing for catfish, and I've got a story to go over about a military gentleman that lost a bunch of equipment. So with that being said, Chuck, you want to start her off?
Uh, yeah, there was some. I don't know if there's some regulations being passed or have been passed on uh, some flathead regulations in Indiana where uh, they're saying that it don't include the commercial fishermen. And I was gonna see if anybody knew anything about that and what they were talking about. I didn't get to. I don't know too much about what kind of regulations they got passed or anything like that. Do you know anything about that, Chris?
I didn't. I seen a post on it on Facebook where they were talking about um, it looking like a win for us. But I think from what you were saying, over in Illinois, I haven't had a chance to go into detail and look at it in depth or anything. So I couldn't tell you exactly what's going on with it. But it sounded like what you were saying that it might just be you know, not as good of a win as what you'd think. Kind of a fake win, very slight win.
Well, anything that we get done is a plus, but it has to apply to everybody. And the way I understand it, and what we was talking about before the show, uh, it only impacts the rod and reel, hook and line fishermen. It doesn't affect the commercial guys, and that's typical for the state of Illinois. But I don't know if they. I have my suspicions about what's going on over there, but no way of proving it actually. But they'll do about anything that those commercial guys. They'll let them get away with about anything possible, and then that's just not right. If you can't keep a fish of any breed or any size, it ought to apply to everybody, not just the rod and reel guys.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Um, yeah, I was gonna see if y'all knew anything on that because that's really the guys who want to go out and do it as a sport and they try so hard they keep the rivers up and you look around especially in Alabama. I hadn't looked real good up north, but man, I can drift through any of these rivers down here, and every time I get my drift run by an old trout line that's been sitting in the lake for God knows how long, so mossy you can't keep a hold of it. Now, most of the time, every rod in the boat will go down by the time you get everything unhung. So really, there's a lot of trash in the rivers and everything that you can't even see. And I don't even think that if the conservation people really had an idea how much junk and how dangerous it is on the bottom of the rivers. And I've actually got them hung in my boat motor, you know, 10 foot from the bank, with a big long cord with big workout weights on the end of it where people just rig stuff up and just line hooks out. You're not even supposed to run them from the bank, from what I've heard, but I mean, it's just a mess down here. Um, that's all I got on that. Yeah, what you got?
One of the things I think is right, like you were saying, if they've limited it to rod and reel fishermen and not the commercial fishing, what people don't understand is that you're just making the easiest loophole in the world because a commercial fishing license is anywhere between like 15 and $50. So anybody that wants to go out and keep doing exactly what they put this law in place to stop, all they're doing is creating an extra revenue source for their commercial fishing license. And I mean, so that's, to me, that's what they've done. Instead of actually trying to fix a problem, they said, how can we get more money for commercial fishing
Hey, Chuck,
licenses?
we got a lot of wind noise, Chuck.
Yeah. So I mean, like, if a commercial fishing license is $35 or something in that state, and a guy that's out there and he can't take the amount of catfish, or I don't know exactly what they did in that law. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to read it, but if it's not set across the board for any take, then all they did was say that person wants to go and keep doing what they're doing. They're just going to pay the $35 for their commercial fishing license. You
That's
know.
correct. The sad part about Illinois right now, Chris, is not last year but year before, they was struck with a financial burden that they couldn't overcome, and they went from 160 some uh, agents statewide to less than 70, and they've continued to do that. And they put these commercial fishermen on the honor system, where they fill out their paperwork on their take and what they get, what they don't get, and they don't check them. These guys are making up their numbers and sending them in, and they're just getting away with whatever they want to. And that is typical for Illinois. They just don't play the game like everybody should play it, and they let these guys get away with raping these water systems and selling them to pay lakes and whatever. And they need to get on board. They did make an effort. I will give them that. They made an effort to try to do something. It was only on, as I understand it, was only on flatheads, and it was only on certain size, and it only pertained to the rod and reel fishermen. And that's just, they might as well not have done nothing, because them commercial guys are going to continue to take those fish out in any number they want to, and write in what they're supposed to have in there, and nobody's going to check them when they know it's not being done.
Yeah. Chuck, did you have anything else, or do you want me to go ahead and?
Most of my stuff, pertains to, with the electronics and stuff, and I was just gonna, include it in with your stuff. And so if Lyle's got anything he needs to talk about before you get started, because I know it's going to go on forever. I mean, there's a lot to
Well,
talk.
why don't
So
I go ahead with what I got, and then we'll turn it over to Chris and let him run through what you guys have got on the electronics. How's that?
let's do it.
All right. Illinois has a organization called Bow Fishing Association of Illinois. These guys, I sent a message last year and told them what I thought about their endeavors to try to get this stuff passed. In fact, it might have been the year before last. And evidently, the guy that's over top of this, he absolutely must have a cast iron memory. Ed DeVars. He actually last week posted the private message that I had sent him, telling him my displeasure with what they was trying to get done. And that's fine. I really don't care if they post it. I don't care what they done. I give him an honest opinion of what I believed, and he could take it for what it's worth. And now he feels like a private message should be put out on for the public to read, and that's fine. I really don't care, because it doesn't change how I feel about stuff. They voted down this bow fishing for catfish in the state of Illinois, and these boys, it's kind of like the guys in Missouri that never said anything or done anything when they got ready to pass the regulations on Truman Lake, the Ozarks, and it went over by overwhelming numbers. And the next thing you know, they're all whining and crying because they can't feed their family off the fish they catch out of the lakes. Well, boys, if you can't feed your family, it's not because the fish ain't there. It's because you need to go out and get a job. You don't have anything to do with trot lining and limb lining and slot limits on catfish. That's just crazy talk. So thank you, Illinois, for not passing that bow fishing stuff. That Illinois River where they was going to try this, I fished it numerous times. Those people are never going to convince me that when they shoot a bow at a fish in that muddy river that they can tell if it's a blue, a channel cat, or a flathead. There's no way. That river is a mess, and it's always muddy. It's full of Asian carp. If you want to bow fish something, shoot those Asian carp. There's millions of them any place on that river you want to go. There's no reason to bow hunt catfish. The channel cat, they've got some great channel cat in there. There's blues in there. There's flatheads in there. When you turn loose that bowstring and you can't tell what it is, and you hit a flathead or you hit a blue, and it's supposed to be a channel cat because that was the only thing the regulations is on for, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it back and let it die that way? You're going to take it home? Either way, the fish is just as dead. So Illinois heads up on that. Good job. I have a story from Sean Harris, and some of you may or may not know Sean. Him and I become kind of good friends over the internet, and he had sent me a message that a gentleman that serves in our military is going to be coming in July for his tour overseas, and thank you very much for that. There's nothing we can do, Eric Coleman. We appreciate everything that you've done. Uh, he's coming in July, and when he got ready to make the trip back, he found out that someone had stolen all of his fishing equipment while he was out serving our country. Some scumbag went in there and took all his fishing stuff. I just cannot believe that somebody would do that to a military guy. It's just unbelievable. But anyhow, Sean is going to take this gentleman out on a trip and try to get him on some fish. Now, that's outstanding in itself, but if anybody has anything that they can send to Sean to help this guy that took care of us in his time in the military, you can contact Sean Harris and let him know what you got and try to help this gentleman out. I mean, I cannot believe that anybody would stoop to the level to take a military man's fishing equipment and steal it from him while he's over there taking care of them sorry people. Uh, it's mind-boggling to me. I just can't believe it. The gentleman's name is Derek Coleman. We're very proud of you, Derek, and thank you for everything you do. We'll see what we can get done, and hopefully if anybody's got any hooks or sinkers or any equipment that they could spare, get a hold of Sean Harris or contact me, and I'll put you in contact with Sean if you can't get him. Sean is donating a trip for Derek and his brother when they come in, and that's an outstanding thing in itself. And I know that they'll be on fish, and fish will be coming off the nest, and they'll be able to load up on some great fish and have a really good time. But you know, if we can help this gentleman out any at all, just contact me or Sean, and we'll see if we can get something put together for this guy. He's done so much for us, it won't hurt anything to try to help him out a little bit. And that's the main story I have for the night.
All right. All right. So with Humminbird, and that's, you know, a lot of us, the Ford and Chevy thing, Humminbird, Lowrance, I'm not getting into any of that. I'm talking about Humminbird. They're my sponsor. Any of the people that I've had as sponsors is products that I've used before I had them as a sponsor normally, and truly 100% believe they're quality products. Humminbird, in the marketplace, if you watch what's going on with the different companies coming out with graphs and electronics and things, there's no one out there doing what Humminbird does on a consistent basis. They are constantly improving products, adding to their existing products, keeping things updated, and have 100% the best customer support there is in a company for your products. You have a problem with your Humminbird and it's under your warranty, you call them, they will take care of you. They have overnighted me my head units, so that way I could be on the water for just pre-fishing. I would let them know, I got a tournament coming on. It's not necessarily time, but I want to get out and pre-fish, and they have no problem getting me another unit as soon as possible. Like I said, overnighting it and then just sending me the box to send mine in, so I don't have to pay for anything. And this is universal for the most part. With any company, you might have a hiccup or two where it's hard to get a hold of them or get the right person and get the exact answer you're looking for. Because I'm sure with any company, you're going to have your tech support and things like that aren't going to be able to help you out immediately. There's different levels of knowledge there. But overall, the company is always putting out new products, always leading the technology for the most part, and trying to give you things that work and really help you do what you need to do on the water. Not only that, they have, some of the best pro staff in bass fishing, and the guys really go above and beyond with putting out informational videos and how-tos and learning products and things like that. So I'm just going to talk, about the stuff that I really know about, and some suggestions that I would have with your units. Most of these electronics take a long time, and I'm talking, a year to 5 years or more to really master the unit itself. And I mean, you have a lot of things in these systems that you don't even know exist or you don't know how to utilize. So I would suggest, if you get a new Humminbird unit or you have an existing Humminbird unit, um, you really need to go out. You need to look up the YouTube videos. You need to see what they're doing. There's different setup techniques. Now, I take these setup videos and stuff with a grain of salt, because I believe every unit is going to be different. I mean, it could be made with the exact same um, parts and everything, but it's just going to be different, for your situation and what you're doing on the water. So you have to. Yeah, I'm sorry, reading a little bit of the top or the chat, but yeah, you have to get out on the water with it. Really, there's some good instructional videos online that tell you how to set it up yourself. Like taking the jig, I think it's like a 1/16 jig or something, and going off the back of your boat with your with a pole with that jig, dropping it straight down, and making and adjusting your fish finder until you can see that jig slowly coming down on your fish, adjusting your sensitivity. You can adjust your color palettes for side imaging to what suits you best, and what you want to look for on your color palette is what makes the fish or structure stand out more on that side imaging for you. And that could be, a lot of times it's normally between the amber and the blue for side imaging. I'll tell you that right now. Some people like the blue, some people like the amber. It's normally one of those two that everybody has one of those on. Be quiet, Ron. Yes, that's what I'll tell you right now. I've had the 1199, I've had a 798, and I have an Onyx 10 SI cross touch right now. But like I said, you really want to set the graph up. By going, you want to watch the videos on what you need to do. The jig head is a great video. Doing that setup with it is going to get you started. A lot of the Humminbird units out of the box are normally really good right out of the box, but you definitely want to fine tune them. Transducer placement is going to be your toughest thing, most likely. If you get it perfect the first time, you're probably really lucky. I've never got it right the first time. You always have a little bit of motor interference or something, or just just a tiny bit angled wrong, and not getting the image I want on one side or the other. But there's also there's a guy on Facebook, and I believe he has his own website, and I think if you look for it, is the Technological Angler. And he actually has videos, DVDs that you can purchase, and normally I think he has them on Lowrance units, he has them on Humminbird units, but I know that he was working on a Humminbird Onyx specific instructional DVD, and that I know the guy really puts a lot of effort and technological information into his DVDs and his information that he puts out. So I think that's money well spent there. And if you're getting into something that's way above your head, you definitely want a lot of information like that that's going to help you. And you're going to have to realize that you're going to need a lot of time on the water and a lot of time watching these instructional videos and things, understanding what all your unit is capable of doing. So don't get discouraged. I've seen a lot of guys actually out on the water at a tournament or whatever say, oh, I sold that, it just had too many gadgets and buttons and had too much of this, and really, if you're a tournament fisherman, that's about the worst thing you could do, because if you're getting rid of something that's giving you more information and you're getting something that's giving you less information, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Every tournament bass fisherman, every tournament crappie fisherman, every tournament cat fisherman is going to tell you the more information at your fingertips that you're able to see and use, the better you're going to be able to do most of the time. And that's what the technology is doing. It is providing you more and more information. Being able to see side imaging, seeing the structure, seeing the fish on the structure. This is all things that weren't even possible not long ago. So I've got some screenshots that I can show you guys. I'm going to go through that and try to help tell you, because I know it's hard to just talk about what I'm talking about and figure out, yeah, that's what he means. And when you have a screenshot, it might help you just a little bit see exactly what I'm saying. All right. This first screenshot right here, and I might have shown some of these before. I think some of them are going to be new. But this first screenshot here, this is shad. Now, if you look through the whole water column here, the middle of the boat, straight to the bottom on the left and right, you have to take that image and right where that white line is, almost fold that picture in half. And that's basically your image. If you take that white line and fold it in half and then fold it flat on this line here, that's basically the image straight down from your boat. That's the beam, that's the image. But I like, there's a setting in your unit. You can take this gap between the boat, the top of the water, basically the boat, transducer, and the surface of the bottom. You can take that out. There is a setting where you can take that out, but I like to leave it there because, like you can see, there's more information here. I mean, it's the same thing as one side of your down imaging, which is the bottom right-hand side. This is the screen that I run with most of the time on the river when I'm scouting. I'll run the 3-screen, which is my side imaging, my 2D sonar, and my down imaging. This is all shad. This is a tournament where I was looking for some bait. The whole lake, you're not going to see this everywhere, but definitely, I got an echo here from someone. But definitely look around and for bait, you're going to want to. It might not be as thick as this. When you're looking for shad on your fish finder. even me too. Shad, the shad might be. You'll see this big cluster like this in the down imaging. All this, you normally will see just one ball, and that's what they call the shad ball or the bait ball. This was thick. I mean, we were in the shad thick. They were everywhere in here, and that's the reason why it looks like that. Also, a lot of people want to know, well, when I'm looking at this side imaging, what can I see on that side that shows me fish? What you want to look for is almost like down at the bottom here. There's like a white streak. That I don't believe that's a fish. I think that's just the image being distorted. But that's kind of along the lines. In one of the other screenshots, I might be able to show you what you want to look for. You also want to look for shadows. Decent sized fish will put off a shadow on that bottom, and you'll see the shadow. And you'll see the structure. And I've got, like I said, plenty of these screenshots. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the second screenshot. And I do have a mouse that's wanting to be difficult, so bear with me. This is a tournament that, these are all screenshots, I should say too, by the way. These are all screenshots from my Onyx. I don't have any screenshots from my old 1199. These are all Onyx screenshots, and they're all done within the past 6 months, so they're fairly recent screenshots. Still to this day don't have the perfect image on my left side. I get it sometimes and sometimes I don't. It really depends on how my boat. Yeah, this is the amber is the color that I run. I use blue on my. I only go out between 80 and 110. Like you'll see, this screenshot here is 80. I've got it set out to 80 feet. It goes up to, I don't know, 150, 200 feet or so. I compact it down just I get a better image, I believe. About 80 foot is about where I normally have, between 80 and 100. But on this one here, like I said, I don't get the greatest left side imaging. My motor is on that side. Now, like I said, there's times where my motor, you know, it doesn't play any role. I'll get a perfect left side image, a perfect right side image. You know, just going down river, going up river. One of the other things you need to keep in mind, and a lot of people don't do this, is setting your chart speed in Humminbird. You want your chart speed to match your boat speed within one to two. So like, let's say you're going 3 mile an hour, you want to have your chart speed set at 3. If you're going 4 mile an hour, you want it at 4, 5 mile an hour, etc. Honestly, I like to cruise right around 4 to 5 mile an hour normally when I'm looking at structure and I'm looking at things. So 5 mile an hour is about what I keep mine at, 5 to 6. But I'll adjust it if I start slowing down and I really want to get a real good image on something and go over it a few times and figure out exactly how, you know, one of the cool things you can do with the touch version of Humminbird Onyx is, for instance, on this wood right here, you can see all these trees over here. If I were happen to see a fish sitting right on the back of that, on my screen, I can touch where that fish is at and tell it to mark a waypoint right there just by touching it. And when I put that waypoint there, I then can switch over to my map view, and on my map view, and I'll normally do a map split with 2D is what I'll do. I'll split map screen and 2D screen and go over my waypoint, and I'll keep an eye on exactly when I went over that waypoint, so that way when I go up above, and if I drop anchor, I know exactly how far I need to go up above, so that way I can drop anchor enough to still come back down and be right where I'm at. A lot of times I'll take a something on the bank. It'll be like a image marker for where, you know, that spot is, so that way I know that my back of my boat and how far I'm casting out. It's really when you're anchoring about the best way to try to get precise onto the spot. If you want to use your trolling motor and suspend right over that spot, it's a whole lot easier and works great if you have the trolling motor to do that, but not everybody does. So, but this here, you can see in this screenshot, like I said, there's a lot of wood, there's a lot of structure here, and this is the White River. I don't think I fished this spot, but I thought it was a good screenshot. You know, it looked like a lot of structure there. I'm gonna go on to the next one. You can see more. There's lots of trees over here. I might have my sensitivity or my not sensitivity, my contrast a little high, getting a lot of a brightness right off of the bottom right there. You can turn that down and up and whatever way you like to get your best image. But you can see, like right here, right in the middle lower part of the screen there, you can see from the surface, you know, directly under the boat. That's what you're looking at, is directly under the boat right here. There was a tree sitting there. You know, you really can't see on that image. If I'd have had down imaging or something like that, I might have been able to see a little better if maybe a fish was holding on to that. If you guys have any questions on any of this, feel free to ask while I'm going along, by the way, or anything. But a lot of times, right in the down imaging, you'll see this stuff with side imaging. Side imaging, for me, is locating it, locating the structure, locating the fish sometimes, but more so with like down imaging. Once you find the structure, and you might see what looks like fish on your side image. My boat right now, I can cruise at 30, 35 mile an hour and still be picking up side imaging with my transducer, which is awesome. I love that. If I start getting into some real hard chop or anything like that, I'll lose my screen. But that 30, 35 mile an hour when I'm running down the river, I'm still picking up side imaging. Of course, it's going to be a delayed. Are the light looking trees or shadows? I'm trying to get what you're asking, Jason. A lot of times when you're looking at side imaging, I can tell you this. When you see shadows, it's normally one of two things. It's normally a shadow or it's a drop off. You're looking at when it drops off, you're getting that darker return because it's going away. So you'll see a darker return. That could be a drop off that shows ledges, things like that. So like a lot of this right here though, I believe is just trees and shadows of the trees. And like you can almost see up in this top here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not on the screen. Can anybody tell me if you can see that or not?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, the cursor right here to the left of my cursor, you see that white line sitting there, and it's just like sort of nothing around it. That possibly could be a fish sitting on it. This right here, that could possibly be a fish until you get like all these little things right here off of the back of the structure could be fish sitting right off the back of it. Um, I like to, when I see something like that, and if I'm really interested and it intrigues me, I'll go over it and I'll see, I'll look on my down imaging. My down imaging is going to show me a little better along with um, my 2D sonar. And a lot of people don't realize this, that when they go over the trees and stuff like that, your 2D sonar is going to show you fish. It'll show you arches, and those aren't fish. That's just your sonar getting that return. Every time your 2D sonar gives you an arch, that doesn't mean that's actually a fish. There's a lot of times where that's not fish. That's actually just structure, and it's getting that return because it's basically rebound a return from that. When I look at the left screen, I see what looks like branches. Is that what's there, or is that a shadow? The left side of my screen on this image here is not very great. I'm only getting it so far, but the way I read this is that for this first part, this is, like I said, directly underneath my boat, and I'm only seeing about 8 feet past it. I'm not getting the best return any more than 20 foot off of the side for this image. And when my boat's doing that, it's normally because it's weighted down on one side or the other. Like my boat, when I'm running down the water, leans to the left just a little bit. So if I have somebody sitting over there, or if I have coolers over there, it just doesn't give me the best return unless my boat is actually level. Because you set your transducer up on a level boat. So I mean, like I need to move mine just a little bit because it rides a little bit lower on the left side than it does on the right. So you really got to level your transducer for the way your boat rides. But yeah, there is a tree there. You can see a tree directly underneath the boat right here, and kind of going off on the back here. You can sort of see it coming off a little bit, but you're not getting, like there's a shadow right here coming from it, but I'm not getting the best image over here like I am over here.
Yeah,
So on,
what I like doing, Chris, is after you find a nice log like you have on that last side imaging, if you go over it and you think you see a fish, I like turning my chart speed up on my unit about twice as high as my speed, and just as you go over that log, if there's a fish within a foot of it, your screen's going faster, so sometimes it'll separate that fish from that log. If you can't tell if actually there's a fish there, it's helped me a few times on some fish going across with with my chart speed fast. It just pulls it right away from that structure a little bit. You don't want to hunt all the time with it like that. Just if you want to run back across it real quick and double check or something, and that seems to work out really good.
this picture here, I know what you're saying, Chuck, and I've heard that too. I can't say that I've done that, but I have heard that. I need to do that to see if it, for myself.
Yeah, like
This picture here, go ahead.
like when it really helped me was like on the big pipe on Wheeler Lake, and you go over it and you'll see a big hump off that pipe. The fish is not really touching that pipe, but if you turn your chart speed up when you go over it, it gives more distance in between the fish and the pipe, and you actually can see it. And that when you see something like that, boy, it's real exciting. And before I learned that, I would just cruise over spots like that, and I'm like, man, that looked like a fish, but I'm not sure. But after I do it a few times, you can tell a big difference.
And Justin asked me if I've tried trimming my motor up some to get a better image on my left side. Yes, I have. I've trimmed it up. I've done lots of things. It really just seems to be more along the lines of exactly how fast I'm going, exactly which way the current's going. I mean, really, it just seems odd when I get better images than that on my left side on why it does it. So I think you're going to see. There might be a picture on one of these. You'll see that at the screenshot they get better. I mean, there's for whatever reason it's just random on what it looks like on my left side. But when I'm getting this on the right side, it doesn't bother me too much because I can just turn the boat around, come back, and just basically use the one side, and I might extend my distance out a little bit if I need to. But what this screenshot here is kind of showing me, if you look right in the middle of this screenshot, it's almost a uniform color, so you know that it's a flat. You're looking at flat land right through there. Um, so the shadows are telling me that's definitely just trees poking up off the side here, and you're seeing all the shadows because of these limbs and branches and trees are sticking up farther than what the image beam is able to um, get information from. Because when it can't get information from it, you get that shadow, that darkness. So you've got some good tall structure here, basically. That's what that's telling me. There's some big tall stuff sticking up out of the water over on this side. Big old trees just laying down over there. Like I said, you can sort of see some things that look like fish sitting up in them until you go right over them, really. I mean, a lot of people think that they might avoid this stuff because they look at that and say, oh, I'm going to break off, way too much gear. That might be the case, but if the fish are holding to that, you're going to have to break gear to catch them. And breaking gear for a lot of guys is something they aren't willing to do, and I don't understand that. Tying gear is almost, if I don't tie gear in a tournament, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I'm always tying gear in a tournament. I've always broke something off, if not once or twice, maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 times in a tournament. I've done it before. Going to the next picture here. Okay, this you're starting to see a little better image on my left side. Definitely still great image on my right side. This is in Locks and Dam. This is what my screen showed in I believe it was Cannleton Locks and Dam with my Onyx. These are the plates I think that open up under the water to let the water in or let the water out. And you can sort of see what almost looks like fish in there as well. You can see the big gap between the top of the water and the in that last picture, Jason, you didn't see any fish. Like I said, that it wasn't a great picture for fish. It was only a possibility there could be fish over there. I seen some marks that looked like they could be fish. They weren't the greatest. There are pictures on here on my Onyx that you'll say, okay, that's definitely a fish over there. And I mean, I can show there's more screenshots coming through here, but I'll show them to you. But yeah, this here was a really cool screenshot. Like that right there, you can sort of see that was probably a fish sitting there because I can see a shadow right off the back of him. Looks like he's just a couple feet up off foot or two off the bottom right there, and you can see the shadow coming off of him. That right there might be a fish. These here, you never know for sure what a fish is on here until you have used it for a long time and you start to really, you set up on the things that you think are fish and you catch them and you realize, okay, that is fish. And you start understanding what to look for on your side. And a lot of guys nowadays with the technology we have in our side imaging things don't fish a spot until they see the fish on this fish finder. They're not going to sit there and fish for something they don't see. Next picture here. I got a great image there. You can see. Trying to remember what this was. I want to say it was an old bridge or something. I can't really recall, but you can almost see what looks like a school of shad or something up in the top left hand, right past that bridge. A school of bait fish on the right hand side, possibly here. Sometimes you're going to get prop wash and things like that. Um, but I mean, like, and also up here at the top, you're going to see your depth lines. That's how 25 feet out, 50 feet out. Um, you can sort of see that the top of the water to the top of this bridge is only about 12, 15 feet underwater. And you're seeing a lot of that. What was right here, whatever this, if it was prop wash or shad, sometimes it looks more like a, yeah, I've caught like this last weekend. I went through and I was basically using my side imaging uh, for targeting and locating fish, and set up on them and caught them. And I mean, that's my partner. I had to get a new partner for this tournament like in the last couple days, and he pretty much just said, go do whatever you want to do. And it was Daniel Lux, who I fished with this weekend, my last year's partner. He just said, I'm just here to fish. Basically, you go where you want to go and do what you want to do. And I basically went and used side imaging to locate fish, and we anchored up on them and caught them. But yeah, these are the kind of screenshots, and they can even be better than this. These aren't the 100% factory awesome screenshots that you're going to see Humminbird necessarily put out. These are off my boat, not in optimal settings or anything like that. It's me getting it out there and using it, and then I'm still working on getting it fine tuned in. And I think that getting it fine tuned in can take a while sometimes. There's no problem with that. But yeah, like you can see all this. I almost wonder if it was debris in the water or something like that. You're going to get returns like this. You're going to see in the 2D down along through here. There's a lot of just clutter in the water, but yet you don't see anything that's a marked fish. It really doesn't look like any marked fish in there, any arches at all. Just a lot of stuff, and then it just sort of cuts off right there. And that could be prop wash. I don't think it's prop wash, being that it goes down so deep on the other side, but debris or something. There's definitely a reason why it's doing that. Let me see. Let me go back here real quick. I'm trying to see if I marked any. There's a couple of these white dots that you're seeing along over here, and if you see rocks and stuff, rocks and stuff are going to come off as the white specks and the white lines and things like that as well. But you'll get better at like that right there. Almost probably a rock. That's probably a rock. Um, you'll get better at determining what's fish, what's rock. Here's another image of just a lot of structure. You're seeing there's a bunch of like rocks or tree roots, or something that's sticking up right before a drop off, and then it comes back up. That hole right there, and a lot of times, if the fish are holding tight to current or holding tight to structure and things like that, that right there is a good thing to like set your boat up with anchor all the like have your back of your boat right off this ledge to where you can fish right off the corner of this ledge. The fish might sit right here, where I'm talking right off the lip of that drop, and they might be sitting right down here in the very bottom of that thing behind whatever that structure is right there. And Ron Streeter says he's caught fish that he's marked. It worked great at Bass Lake, which is where I struggled at this couple weeks back or a month back, however long ago that was. But you can sort of see, like in your 2D, what I was talking about. This right here, if you were to just go over it with just 2D and look at it, you're going to say, oh man, was that a fish sitting right there on the bottom? Because a lot of catfish anglers want to say that their catfish are going to be sitting right on the bottom. And that's not always true, but a lot of times we're looking for stuff like, sitting right on the bottom, and you can sort of see some separation with 2D. You know, and a little bit of that red that looks like a top of an arch, and down here it looks like top of an arch. And there's guys that would mistake that without this side imaging as fish. They would set up on that when 2D was all we had. They'd set up on this and fish it. Me, I wouldn't fish this. I don't see any fish in it. You know, I'm not saying there aren't, but I don't see anything of fishability there. You know, I don't see anything really standing out that make me want to fish that. It's a great looking structure, but you've got to see fish there too. I think doesn't mean they're not there. I mean, there's plenty of times where I didn't see anything on my fish finder that made me want to fish it, and I sat up and fished it and caught fish. Whether they were there the whole time or they moved in, I don't know. You know, but that's the kind of thing where if you're good enough, if you're really out there, you got a lot of time on the water, and you pattern the fish out, you realize the fish are holding tight to structure. You know, you might just give it a shot anyway, and even if they're not there right then, you might have a feeling that they're going to move there within the next few hours because of the daylight coming in or the daylight going out or whatever. If they're coming up to feed, you know, I mean, if you have a good idea of what you think they're going to do, the best thing to do is give it a shot and just keep track of what you did and what worked and what didn't.
Yeah, it looks like a travel route to me too.
Oh yeah, I use my side imaging a lot. This last weekend we were in anywhere between 15 feet and 60 feet of water. Oh, let me go back. Okay, now this screenshot here I thought was interesting. This to me is a gar. I was riding along, and this down imaging shot, you look at the long. I mean, to me that, and you can see it in the side imaging right in the middle of the water column there, and you can sort of see it on the 2D. I was like, I think that's a gar. That's 100% a gar.
That's a gar, man.
And I thought that was a really cool screenshot. I got that on there. And I said, you know, that's showing me a gar right there. You know, you are kind of seeing what might be a couple fish sitting back here, maybe a couple smaller gar too, up on the back side of it, and you can sort of see them along my down imaging as well. I believe that's what that is, unless that's over here. No, I think that's back up here. Yep, and it's sort of coming in on the 2D. But that was a really cool screenshot. I think I was in 49, well, almost 50 foot of water. Had my side imaging set out at 110 feet. What depth do you stop using side imaging? I never stop using it. I mean, you get to, I've hit some 80-foot water where you're pretty much only seeing, you know, I set it out to 110 feet, or you're seeing 30 feet of bottom, you know. I mean, that's, like I said before, the more information you can get, the better you're able to take that information and the better you're able to possibly do. Side imaging at any depth can give you more information, even if it gives you the information of there's something there and you go over it with your down imaging 2D. So I will always have my side imaging on. Like I said, I run this 3 screen most of the time, and it's more for my information purpose. How shallow will I use it to? I guess at about 3 feet, you're starting to. I would probably pull my side imaging into about 60 feet at 3 feet or so. Normally, if you're in that shallow water, you don't have a huge area to fish anyway. So, yeah, 3 feet or so, I would say, is about as shallow as I'll use my side imaging, having it on there. But and I'll probably um, I might even have just side imaging on just to sort of see if I'm marking the unless I can't go the 3 to 4 mile an hour or 5 mile an hour that I want to go to get a good image on it. If I can't do that in that area because there's too many logs or whatever, I might just switch them down in 2D.
What'd you have your 2D set on right there? Because that gar should have showed up a lot better than that with all that bone it's got.
Yeah, it says down 200 kilohertz, and I don't know if I didn't have my. I know it looks like clear mode to me, but max mode would probably showed it off a little better. Um, yeah, I don't know if.
You might have had it turned down to try to get rid of the clutter, and I do that
Yeah,
sometimes, and it don't, it takes away from the fish big time.
yeah. Now this screenshot here was this Saturday, I believe. Yeah, this Saturday. Um, you see the bottom here. Now a lot of times you hear people say, I was fishing structure, I was fishing structure, and somebody says, structure is a log on the bottom or a tire or something like that. This is an example of structure that is just the bottom. It's just the contour. You're seeing these small hills with a little, just a very lumpy pattern. And you can see here, most of the fish were sitting right on top of, right, within 5 foot, if that. They weren't sitting down in there, but there's going to be times that those fish will be just piled up, like right here on the back side of this right here. There might be some in here. Really, what we were dealing with was about 4 mile an hour current, and these fish were sitting right up in it. This was 50 foot of water, um, and these fish were sitting right up in there. I honestly can't tell you. We fished this area, and I didn't catch anything off of it. I was curious when I went over this if this might have been Asian carp or striped bass or something like that. The way they were schooled up like that with that many of them, I was hoping that there might be a catfish or two just hanging out amongst them somewhere, but I didn't catch anything in this area. Also, one of the things you want to keep in mind, and some people may know this, may not know this, the arches on your 2D. Um, an arch, when going directly over the fish, is going to be almost like a full arch, like a full rainbow. You know what I mean? It's not going to be more the check mark shape. When you get that check mark shape, that means it's more off to the left or the right of your beam. You're not getting that straight down return. When you get that straight arch as like a full half circle, that means you're directly over that fish. It lets you know that you don't need to throw off to the left or to the right. You went directly over where they're at when you're getting the full arch. Don't you get more red in your 2D? There's a lot of people that say that, like you're going to get that red hard turn, like right here on the head of that catfish because of the skull plate. I'm not sure if I believe that or not. I think a lot of fish have a skull plate in them, and you could get that hard return off of just about a spoonbill. Any fish that has a bone in their head, I would say would come off of a harder return. So I don't know that I buy that. I think that red is a harder return. I mean but yeah, every single one of these fish that you see here has a head, and only the bigger fish. I think what it might tell you is how big the fish is. The bigger the fish, the more you're going to see that red return. That's kind of my opinion on it. I could be wrong. I'm not, right about everything. Don't tell anybody. But this is just what I've gathered. And a lot of times when I see big schools of fish like this, I don't normally associate it to catfish with that big of a school of fish. Like I said, I fished this in hopes that there might have been catfish maybe feeding on whatever this was. Um, so You also, when you're out there and you're on the water and stuff, and you watch the videos, it's going to tell you about the hertz of each thing. Like right now on this 2D, you see it's split 83-200. It's on split. Um, and I can't remember offhand which one it is. One of them is for basically above 10 feet, and one's below 10 feet of water. And by using the auto and split, some people believe that you're not getting as a high quality return as you can if you were to select the right hertz for the depth of water. You know anything about that, Chuck or Lyle?
I play with mine constantly to get the best image, but the lower the number, that seems to be the better it works for me.
The lower the number, the better it works for you.
The lower the hertz number, yes, the more clear image I get.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Jason. That's why basically I gave that spot about 45 minutes and I was done. I was like, man, there's a lot of fish there. I don't think it's catfish, but I hope that there's a catfish that might be feeding on it somewhere, and I gave it a go. We only moved, I'd say, in this last tournament. I'll tell everybody now. I fished Duffy's Landing with Daniel Lux this last weekend. We had 17 boats. There was some really top quality fishermen out there. Um, Everybody was hoping to have a good night. It was an overnight tournament. Me and Daniel Lux ended up winning the tournament. We got big fish and won first place. We fished about, I would say, 6 spots or less. We didn't move around a lot. We anchored up. We didn't drift at all. Actually, I take that back. We drifted for about 30 minutes in a small cove, just to see if we could pick anything up in there. That was our first spot that we went to. We drifted around there. We actually anchored up in there first, and then drifted around it a little bit. We didn't get any bites. We were fishing between 30 and 60 foot of water in there. I did notice inside that cove, though, that, like, you got to think, even on the Ohio River where the water isn't turning a lot, we were noticing a thermocline on this. It was like a sand pit right off the side of the river. You go right off the Ohio River into the sand pit area where all the people were in there partying with their big party boats and stuff like that. But we were noticing that thermocline right at that 20-25 foot mark in there, so we were drifting above it and right in it. We had one good bite in there. We threw a live bluegill on a big old bobber out right next to a barge, and bobber took off and was gone underwater, and he went to set the hook and there was nothing there. So it could have been a gar. We don't really know. But yeah, we moved around. We were looking on the side imaging. I found some. What I noticed and did in this last tournament was I was noticing that 22 to 32 foot range of water, with a little bit of structure was what was holding them. They were holding real close to structure, not like right on it, but real close to it. I don't know if they're just getting prepared for that current to pick up and get even worse and be close to the structure they could get behind and have a little bit of a break. And right now it was still at an area where they could sit up there and just grab the small bait fish that were coming through, so they were sitting up in it. But yeah, that's what I noticed. I went through. We caught just about every fish on live bluegill and dead bluegill. When I ran out of live bluegill, I started throwing dead bluegill on, and I was catching them on the dead bluegill just as much. Actually, probably more than I was the live bluegill. And that bite, we had 3 fish at 3 o'clock in the morning. Really, I wanted to have more fish in there before that. Everybody, I talked to said they had more fish, so. Pretty much the morning bite kicked in about 3:30, 4 o'clock, maybe even 4:30, and for the next couple hours, 2-3 hours, all the way up until we left, I think we ended up catching maybe 12, 13 fish or so. So, we caught quite a few. It was a good night of fishing. We had a great time.
Blues or flatheads, Chris?
Everything, blues and flatheads. Yeah, we had 2 flatheads that were probably in the 15-pound range. We had a blue that was 30 pounds. Let's see here. Now I'm trying to get back on the. So basically, yeah, we were catching. I caught 30-pound blue on a live bluegill. Um, and I'll tell you this about that 30-pound blue. It was kind of a miracle. I mean, I guess I have really good faith in my knots and in my line. I before every tournament I reline my leader line. I put brand new, fresh, 40-pound mono on as my leader line. I check my braid for about 5 or 10 feet up my braid just to make sure that it's not been rubbed or anything crazy. And if I see any burrs or anything in it, I cut it off and pull it down, retie it onto the swivel. I make sure everything is, and I do this before every single tournament. But when I caught that 30-pound blue, like I said, we were in a good swift 4 mile an hour plus current. It could have even been more than that. It could have been 5 or 6. I never really tested it, but it was a good swift current, and the blue had got tangled up in one of my other poles, and my other pole was snagged. So I got that fish to about 6 foot behind the boat. Couldn't reach him with a cast, or couldn't reach him with the landing net. And I mean, I was standing on the front of my boat trying to pull it almost as hard as I could just to get it close enough for him to net. And I mean, I was really putting it was the ultimate scenario for any sort of failure to happen and lose that fish. I was like, I was telling him, I was wore out on the front of the boat pulling that fish for as long as I was and trying to get it. And I mean, it was, I tightened up my drag. I grabbed the pole by about the middle of the pole and just gave it, at the point where I thought, I'm done with this. I'm either getting it or I'm not. I just really gave it. I said, get ready. I'm pulling as hard as I can up here. I pulled it in just enough for him to get the net under it, and he almost went in the water trying to get that fish in the net. So, it was definitely a fun night of fishing. I told him in the morning, you know, I said, I don't care how we do in this tournament. We had a great night of fishing. This was fun. And he's like, yeah, he hadn't caught a fish in Indiana this year. He's had a broke down boat. He went to Alabama, I think, once, and I think that might have been the only fish he's caught this year. So he was, when I called him and asked him if he wanted to go, he was like, heck yeah, I'll be there. So he met me at the ramp, and we went out and we had a great night of fishing. I needed that. I think a lot of people need that. Go out and just have a good time of fishing. You have your mind focused. You know what you're doing. It helps out. The a couple other things I want to talk about with Humminbird. I know I've been going on for a while, but I still got more. Um, the Helix. If you guys haven't seen the Helix, now this is a more of a budget-friendly Humminbird unit, but this is by far the newest technology and for best bang for buck I think that you can get out there. They have the Helix units with side imaging, and they got them without side imaging. You can get into a Helix unit, I believe, on the cheap end at around $250, and I think you can get into side imaging for around 500, maybe 550, somewhere in that area. But the Helix series also, they changed from their um, uh, what is it, the straight up and down style uh, image format to the widescreen format. And now what that does is it really gives you more screen to see what's going on, because it was really tough on a time like my 798, the first side imaging unit I got. It was really small. I think it's like a 5-inch screen or something 4-inch screen, and it's a lot of information, especially coming from something that doesn't have that. But it's just so hard to really see any detail in, and that detail is where the fish are. Where you're seeing. No, Ron Schrader says, "Guess there goes Wiseman for the rest of the year." No, me and Wiseman have done great this year. I think um, we're going to do well this year, and me and Wiseman will keep going. But yeah, the detail is when you can really see what you're looking at. I sold my 1199 to a guy who said that basically he really needed that detail, and he had a smaller unit as well, and couldn't see the shad like he wanted to see on it, and the 1199 seemed to have done that for him. So glad I could help him out with that too. Um, the 360. Now I'm gonna tell you guys right now, and this is my honest opinion. If you would ask me what's probably, besides, I guess I'll say this, besides the remote controlled trolling motors, and I actually I could almost go 50-50 on whether it's underutilized or not. But if you were to ask me what's the most underutilized piece of modern technology that's out there right now that could change the game, I'd probably tell you it's the 360. Not very many people you probably have seen have the Humminbird 360 on the back of their boat. And once you've got it and you've realized what it's doing for you, it really, really could change the game. I think once some of the bigger tournament guys really get out there with one and they start using it, the 360, whether drifting or anchored, is again giving you so much more information to be able to make decisions and do certain things to get more fish. And for example, what I can tell you was a 360 Humminbird 360 is exactly what it sounds like. It's a first and only that I know of piece of equipment that can give you a full 360 degrees of sonar and fish, basically side imaging and fish locating, that you, like, let's say when you're drifting, you have your 360 on, you're drifting, it's giving you a full 360 degrees, so it's the first and only thing that's telling you what's coming up, what's ahead of you. And just like your side imaging, where you can set the distance out to like 150 feet, the 360 also has the same thing where it can scan a full 150 feet out all the way around your boat. So what that tells you is, say you're drifting and you see some structure right up, and and you have the marker lines that show you how far off it is, if it's 40 feet or 60 feet. It shows you, you're normally, when you're drifting, you're not drifting any more than a mile an hour, so you got plenty of time to maneuver your boat to what you see on the 360. So if you see a fish on your 360 coming up on the right hand side, you can push your boat over to get right over that fish. There's the anchoring up. The first time I used my 360, I didn't know if it was going to work. I was in, I've said this story quite a few times, but it's absolutely 100% true. Turtle Creek tournament, where there's 120 plus boats, the Little Channel Cat tournament. I had just got my 360. I get set up on a spot. I knew exactly where I was going to go, and I get set up on my spot, and I throw all my poles off the back of my boat like we all do. Somebody got the echo going again. There we go. But I get all my poles set off the back of the boat, just like we all do with our rod racks and everything. And I thought, well, only in 3.5 foot of water, I'm not sure if the 360 is going to be able to even work in 3 foot of water. So I went ahead and I turned it on, I dropped it down, I started doing a 360 degree scan around where I was sitting on the boat. And I noticed on the front of my boat, just like a steady traffic of fish moving along the front of the boat. And I had every rod off the back of my boat. And I've got a couple rod holders on the front of my boat. So I took a couple of my rods and threw them up in the front rod holders. And I mean, probably before I even had both poles in the water, I started catching fish off of the front rods. I immediately took every pole and threw them off the front. And we probably caught 60 catfish that day, if not more. And that was the first time using the 360. It turned me all the way around, to where the fish were at. I completely, put every rod that was on the back of my boat on the front and caught all the fish that I was seeing moving on my 360 right up there. I ended up in second place in that tournament out of 120 boats, and that's 100% from the use of that 360 the first time I used it. I honestly can't tell you that I got to use it a lot drifting, but I've talked to people who have, and they tell me the same thing that what I said. It's probably the most underutilized piece of equipment. They don't really want to tell anybody about it. You know, it's one of those things where it's giving them an advantage. It really is, and once people start using it, you know, they don't have that advantage anymore. But so the 360, I can tell you there's two models of the 360. There's um, a trolling motor mounted 360. Oh, congratulations, Greg, on a personal best 35-pound blue yesterday. Um, Brad Durk said he's got a 360 sitting in the office for over a year. You need to use it. Yes, you do. If you don't want to use it, send it to me. But the um, trolling motor mounted 360 will only work on two models, and I believe it's the models before the Tarova. So if you have a Tarova or an Altera, it will not work with those, but it will work on like the Power Drive or something like that, I believe. Fortrex. There's a couple of the things that you can look it up online and find out which ones they'll work for. And then there's a standalone 360 that mounts off the back of your boat. Kind of looks like a power pole or Talon. Um, Looks like the Talon, and it basically will retract, and you can actually retract it with your fish finder. You can tell it to retract, you can tell it to deploy, you can raise it and lower it. It also has the buttons on the unit itself. But the trolling motor version of it, I believe, is $9.99, and the standalone is $14.99 if they haven't lowered the price. Again, I know they've already lowered it once, so it's coming down. Definitely something to take. Brad Durk says it will work on a custom transom mount. But the other things that Humminbird Minn Kota have that most people know about is the iPilot, and the iPilot link, all that. Linking the trolling motor to your fish finder. Also having the remote controlled, the handheld remote controlled trolling motor. A lot of the guys in tournaments are using remote controlled trolling motors these days for controlled drifting. Anchor locking, you know, lots of different uses for the remote controlled trolling motors and the newer trolling motors today. The Altera, I have the new Altera 112 pound thrust 36 volt trolling motor. This thing is a beast, and I mean it is really awesome to go out to a lake and be able to go out by myself and just throw my boat off and you know, jump out and take the boat over and put anchor lock it somewhere, go park my truck, come out to the dock and drive the boat over to me and jump in the boat and go out and go fishing. It makes it just a breeze. And if you got like a wife or somebody that's not great at backing the trailer down and doing all the stuff, you know, I'll throw my wife on the boat and just like I said, I'll just take it out, dump it off the back of the trailer and, you know, do the same thing. Take her out there and anchor lock her and, you know, drive the boat over to me so she don't have to worry about anything. And it's an awesome tool. It really is. You know, and just like with new, I was talking earlier in the episode about it, you know, with new software or with new hardware and new technology, you're going to have a few hiccups and bugs, and they did with the Altera. You know, and what set them apart is that they really went after the fixes, and they put out the fixes and software updates and pretty much just get it fixed right away. They don't let it sit around and play any games with anybody. You know, they get it taken care of. But I'm trying to think, there was something else, and I'm drawing a blank on it. Did anybody have any questions on anything?
Not really. You explained everything pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. Also, I can talk about a little bit with the there's AutoChart Live, which is a additional like an accessory that you can get for an Onyx or any other side imaging Humminbird. I think AutoChart Live is the ability to, like, say for instance, your local lake does not have an HD map version of it in the regional SD cards that Humminbird sells or Lake Master sells. Say you got your region's SD card that gives a bunch of the lake's high definition capability to see all the contours of the lake, and you really like to have that. You can buy this Auto Chart Live, and what you can do is with $11.99 and below, you can actually go out on the lake and tell your fish finder to record while you're out there. And what it will do is it will record and it'll show you on your screen almost like a highlighted area. And where the highlighted area is, you've recorded. And you can record your own lake and take it back to your computer with AutoChart Live. Like I said, with $11.99 and below side imaging unit, you'll take that card back, go to your computer. Basically, your computer needs the processing power. The 1199s and them don't quite have it there to be able to do all the computing needed to render the map out and make the high definition lake. But it'll come with software for your computer. You put it on the computer, and then it will make the HD map from the information you gave it, and you can put that memory card back in your fish finder. And when you go back out, you'll see that HD map for a lake that nobody else has an HD map for. With an Onyx, though, you get Auto Chart Live Pro, and that does everything on the Onyx itself. You don't need to bring an SD card back to your computer to make the map. It creates the map and everything on the Onyx real time, and it saves it right there for you. You know, that along with I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but it's almost like and this is something that I can't tell you I've used. I can't tell you it works great, but it's interesting nonetheless. It's the software that it lets you target specific species of fish on any body of water, and lets you input all the data that you would want. Say, for instance, you're on this body of water, it'll ask you what the weather temperature is, what the skies look like. You know, you input all this information, what species of fish you're targeting, what the water clarity is, and you put all this information in you and asks you all these questions, and then it highlights the area of the lake where it thinks you'll find those fish at. So, like I said, whether it works or not, it's an interesting idea. It's, you know, it's taking some of the work out of fishing, but, you know, hopefully there's a learning capability there as well, and that's what I tell a lot of people. Whereas they think that you're taking the lazy route out of it, whereas you might actually be learning what exactly is working with the Brad Durek. The AutoChart Live is the biggest reason to own an Onyx. He uses it as much or more than side imaging. So, you know, Brad Durek is on the water for a living, you know, so definitely listen to what he's saying. I think that's all I have on it. Like I said, if anybody has any questions or anything about the Humminbird stuff, you're always more than welcome to send it to me on Facebook. And there is a forum or a group on Facebook. It's called Humminbird Side Imaging. You can join it. There's lots of people that are very knowledgeable that will help you out. If you have any problems with anything, that they're more than helpful with you and patient, and they'll do everything they can to get you in the right place if they can't help you. So that's all I have.
All right, great. That's a lot of information there. We've been going on about an hour 30. Chuck, you got some closing statements for tonight?
You're on mute, buddy.
I'm good for tonight.
Okay. Chris?
I just want to say farewell to everybody. You know, it's been great. Like I said, I'll be around on the ICA. I'll be around on Joe's Catfishing. Um, you know, don't be a stranger. Say hello. Check out the site. Keep up with me. Um, it's been a good time. So, au revoir, everyone.
You're not objected to come back to the show for visits, are you?
Possibly.
Okay. Okay. All right. The only thing that I have tonight is Twisted Cat Outdoors will be having a night tournament in Keokuk, Iowa, July 11th, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Um, the rivers are in terrible shape right now, but in the Keokuk area, it's so wide up there, it's not too bad. We're looking at a week and almost 2 weeks away, so the water should be in better shape by then. We'll keep everybody posted if anything changes between now and then. You can get on the Twisted Cat Outdoor Facebook page, and Alex will keep you updated on that. If anything takes place or changes, he will make sure it's posted, or you can contact either one of us. But he will keep that updated if anything changes. Other than that, I think that'll do it for tonight. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll one more time, Chris.
Stay out of my spot, everybody.